What are Janapadas? Janapadas were early small kingdoms or territorial units in ancient India. Name two important trade routes in ancient India mentioned in the chapter: Uttarapatha and Dakshinapatha. What was the main occupation of people in early Vedic society? Agriculture and animal husbandry. What does the term Mahajanapada mean? It means a great kingdom or large state. How many Mahajanapadas existed in the first millennium BCE? There are 16 Mahajanapadas. Which river plains saw the second urbanization? The Ganga and Yamuna plains. What was the role of the Raja in a Janapada? The Raja was the king or ruler who governed the Janapada. What was the assembly of elders called in Janapadas? It was called the Sabha or Samiti. Name one major city in the Kalinga region. Shishupalgarh. What type of plan did Shishupalgarh follow? A strict square ground plan. What was the purpose of the moat around Shishupalgarh? To protect the city by preventing enemy entry. Name the three major kingdoms in South India around 400 BCE. The Cholas, the Cheras and the Pandyas. Why was iron important during the first millennium BCE? Iron tools improved agriculture and helped build stronger weapons and fortifications. What was the main function of the Uttarapatha route? It connected northwest India to the Ganga plains and eastern India for trade and travel. What goods were commonly traded from southern kingdoms? Precious stones, gold, spices, and textiles. Which geographical feature did the Dakshinapatha cross? The Vindhya range of hills. How did the second urbanization affect trade? It expanded urban centers and increased the volume of trade across regions. What was the political status of the Mahajanapadas by 300 BCE? They ceased to exist, making way for new empires. Which ancient literature mentions the 16 Mahajanapadas? Buddhist and Jain texts mention them. What kind of fortifications did cities like Shishupalgarh have? They had strong walls, gateways, and moats. Why did rulers need control over gateways and fortifications? To regulate movement of people and goods and protect the city. What kind of evidence helps historians learn about ancient states? Archaeological sites, inscriptions, coins, and ancient texts. Name one archaeological site important for understanding the South Indian kingdoms. Kodumanal near Erode, Tamil Nadu. How did the Mahajanapadas differ from earlier Janapadas? They were larger, more organized states with urban centers. What is the meaning of second urbanization? The spread of cities and urban culture in the first millennium BCE. Why were ports important in ancient India? They were centers for trade with overseas regions. What kinds of goods were traded along the Uttarapatha? Spices, textiles, horses, and precious metals. What role did precious stones play in South Indian trade? They were valuable trade commodities exported overseas. Why is Kaushambi significant? It was a capital city on the Dakshinapatha trade route. How did road networks influence cultural exchange? They allowed people and ideas to move freely across regions. What does the assembly of elders do in the Janapada? They advised the king and helped in decision making. Which metals were commonly used in the first millennium BCE? Iron, copper, and bronze. How did cities grow in southern India? Through trade, resource wealth, and political stability. What do literary sources tell us about early kingdoms? They provide information about rulers, culture, and social life. What role did agriculture play in the growth of Mahajanapadas? It supported large populations and economic surplus. Name one defensive feature of ancient cities. Fortified walls. What was the role of Raja's council? To advise the king on governance and policy. How were goods transported in ancient India? By roads, using carts, animals, and rivers. What is the significance of Kodumanal? It was a center for sail and gemstone industries. How did southern kingdoms trade overseas? Through ports on the east and west coasts. What was the relationship between trade and urban growth? Trade encouraged the growth of cities as commercial hubs. What was the main cause of the decline of Mahajanapadas? The rise of larger empires and changing political dynamics. How did iron tools affect farming? They made land clearing and cultivation more efficient. What was the importance of broad streets in ancient cities? They facilitated trade and movement within the city. Name a resource besides iron that helped southern kingdoms prosper. Spices. Why did ancient rulers build moats around cities? For defense against invasions. How did trade routes benefit cultural diffusion? They spread religious beliefs, languages, and technologies. What is the role of archaeological excavations in understanding history? They uncover material evidence about past societies. How did the Mahajanapadas influence later Indian empires? They laid foundations for political organization and urbanism. What was the role of pilgrimage routes in ancient India? They facilitated religious travel and cultural exchange.